You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and on March 29th of 2024, Night Demon were scheduled to headline the 2 Minutes to Tulsa Festival, but things did not go as planned. So this is the story of the Night Demon show that almost wasn't.
This episode is not going to be a fun one for me, but this happened. It's heavy metal history now, I guess, so I'm here to retell it as I remember it.
2 Minutes to Tulsa is a festival that takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You guessed it. It's organized by Brian Horton, who is the owner of Horton Records, and Horton Records mainly deals in I want to say Americana, roots rock kind of stuff. But Brian Horton is a big heavy metal fan from the old school. And we met him through our buddy Mitch and all the guys from the band Blind Oath. That was our Tulsa connection. We've always had a strong tie to that city, and we've been going there for years.
2 Minutes to Tulsa. It's a festival. Metal Fest, 2-day festival in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The name comes from the Iron Maiden song, 2 Minutes to Midnight. This festival is put together by the unofficial mayor of Tulsa, at least the mayor of music in Tulsa, the legendary Brian Horton. Brian Horton is just kind of the fucking king of the scene, man. He knows everybody. He's got a record label, puts out a bunch of great records. We met him early on when we ended up playing out there and meeting all the guys from Blind Oath and the Sound Pony crew and all that. He's just been a really good staple in that area ever since we've been going there. Second year. I think he was inspired by Jarvis and Christian from Hell's Heroes to put something together out in Tulsa, because Tulsa's just a really cool town, a really great music scene. The metal scene is starting to pick up there. And, basically, I think that we kind of helped blossom that whole scene there by going and playing there, over and over again. As every time we hit the road, we always try to end up there at some point. And just made some really good fans and really great friends. and maybe inspired. I know we definitely inspired the Blind Oath guys to get their band together and get out on the road and start doing it. So I think there's just an overall feeling about that there. So it just felt like, I guess, time to do a fest like that.
So Night Demon's history with the festival, this is only the second year that they've done it. I mentioned that we'd been going to Tulsa for years. At one point, Brian Horton wanted to throw like a nonprofit event, and he wanted to do a big concert at Cain's Ballroom. So he actually flew us out to headline this thing. So it was kind of like a mini fest. It didn't really have a name. It was just Horton Records presents Night Demon. And, to play at the legendary Cain's Ballroom was awesome because we had started going to Tulsa and playing small bars on the floor, like a place called the Sound Pony, which is actually a really cool place, but it is freaking tiny. Then we were stepping it up. The next tour we'd play at Downtown Lounge, which was a little bit bigger of a bar with a real stage. Then we were playing at the Vanguard, which was a proper venue. And so to come to Cain's, it's just, it's awesome. I mean, Cain's was one of the very few venues that the Sex Pistols played on their one and only tour of the USA. And I had read the book 12 Days on the Road by Noel Monk when on tour. And so I was really fascinated with that Sex Pistols tour. And just going there and seeing that they preserved this hole in the wall that Sid Vicious punched. Kurt Cobain signed the wall in the dressing room. I mean, the place has just been around forever. You can look up the history because I'll probably get it wrong. It's one of the last venues around that still has like a spring-loaded dance floor. So it's a really amazing place with a great vibe. So it was awesome to do that for the first time. That was a great time. So, throughout the years, post-pandemic, Horton hits me up and he says, "Hey, man, I want to do a festival in Tulsa, a metal fest." And I'm like, "Man, you should totally do that." And he was kicking some names around, and they decided on 2 Minutes to Tulsa. He actually came up with a couple other names. I can't remember what was in the running for that, but he actually ran them by me, and I saw 2 Minutes to Tulsa, and I said, "Man, that's what you got to do. That's a great name," right? Obviously, a play on Iron Maiden's 2 Minutes to Midnight. For those who don't know, so it was awesome though, and he did the fest the first year last year, and invited us to be a part of it, which was fucking awesome. And last year's lineup was great. Exciter, Vicious Rumors, Night Demon, Satan, Haunt, Blind Oath, Night Cobra, bunch of cool stuff. So this year had come up, and he had invited us to play again. He had invited Cirith Ungol to play their very first and last Tulsa show of all time. And he wanted Night Demon to headline. He did it 2 nights this year, so as festivals do, they grow through the years. The Friday night was to take place at the Vanguard, and the Saturday night was to take place at Cain's Ballroom across the street. So Night Demon was going to headline the first night and Cirith Ungol the second night. so we wouldn't have to do double duty. It's not like we're not used to doing that, but it was nice to be in two bands, the two headlining bands. It felt like a real badge of honor and felt like something that we had worked up to. So we were really excited to do it, and we all came in, and you know, our whole, the family, I like to call it, you know, of Cirith Ungol and Night Demon, you know, the two bands together. We were there to represent.
It was one of those things. It was around that time. It's time to get some dinner, get out there, get some rest, as we were supposed to headline that night. Got there in time for Blind Oath set. Great to see my boys. Happy they had a great set. I think they really kicked some ass. I had them out here in the studio back in 2022, I think it was. They came out here and did an album. And we also I got them a show. It was around St. Paddy's Day, so I put together a Thin Lizzy cover band, and we booked a show downtown Ventura and got those guys to open, and then brought them over the next night to another kind of house party thing, and they got to play again. So a really great time. That's for another. We got another story for that later. Savage Master, yeah, they were great too. They did their thing, you know. Screamer, they were on tour together, so that was a good package. Great to have the fucking Swedish boys out here rocking Tulsa. They've really become, you know, a favorite around the underground metal scene. So I'm really happy for those guys. They've been coming to the States pretty often, actually, which is really rare for European bands. So they're doing well there. Nasty Savage, yeah, we were there mainly because we were backstage kind of getting set up and, you know, hanging around, getting the vibe of the room and everything. And plus I wanted to see fucking Nasty Ronnie do his thing. And he definitely did his thing. It was pretty interesting. I'd never seen that before.
As I mentioned, Night Demon was headlining the Friday. I hadn't gotten much sleep that week. We were traveling a lot. And I decided, you know, we're going to go do sound check. And I'm going to leave everything set up the best I can. I really needed to go to the hotel and get some sleep. I felt a bit conflicted by this because there's a lot of bands that I wanted to see, a lot of friends in a lot of bands. But I've seen these bands a bunch of times, and I know I'm going to see them again. So I really just needed to get some rest to give myself the best possible opportunity to be a worthy headlining band. So I returned to the venue, I want to say an hour and a half before our set time. I went to the backstage and I saw our drummer Brian back there. I saw Armand back there, and I saw the guys from Nasty Savage, the legendary Nasty Savage from Florida, with the singer Nasty Ronnie, who's basically kind of the personality of a pro wrestler. He's a huge guy, and he's notoriously known for breaking televisions over his head on stage. And so that itself is a sight to see. And actually, Nasty Savage's self-titled album, I reissued on cassette on my label Iron Grip Records, I think in 2020, 2021, sometime around then. So it's like I had already kind of inserted myself as a part of this band's history in some way. So I went backstage, and I saw Nasty Ronnie sitting there, you know. I mean, this guy is probably 350 pounds. He's just like, he's a presence, you know. And he had this candle lit in front of him, and he was just staring at the candle. I watched him stare at that candle for at least 20 minutes without breaking concentration. And I asked his guitar player, hey, what's up with that? And he just said, that's how he focuses. That's how he gets in the mode. He focuses on that flame and gets himself ready for the chaos that's about to ensue on stage as he demolishes his body.
I get to the festival around 6 o'clock, I want to say. And I'm just there to hang out, watch a couple bands before we play later that night. We were scheduled to play at 11 o'clock. And eventually, I find myself backstage, and I see a friend who I hadn't seen in a few years or so. And he and I start talking, and we're catching up, and he ends up pulling out a bag of gummies. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I like sweets and sugar and chocolates and stuff, anything like that. So I'm usually inclined to accept that when handed to me. But when he pulls it out, he kind of just hands me one before he even asks anything. And when someone hands you something, you instinctually grab it. But when I grabbed it, I kind of fumbled and dropped it. And so I pick it up, and the first thought in my mind is, well, I just dropped what he handed to me. It'd be rude to give it back. So I just put it in my mouth and started chewing. And as I swallowed it, then I kind of asked, what was it? And he said, oh, it's a super strong weed gummy. And I'm like, oh. Now, I don't smoke weed. I've never really touched it, and I've never been high in my life. But I was like, just trying to keep my cool and be like, alright, well, I'll probably be fine. I don't have any frame of reference. He said it was 50 milligrams, I think, at some point. But I was like, oh, I don't know, is that a lot? I don't, like I said, no frame of reference. I don't touch weed. So this was about, I want to say, 7:30 at night. And we're scheduled to go on at 11. And I was like, well, I'm sure I'll be fine. Whatever. And so I go on, just act normal.
So it turns out somebody who we will not name, who still will not fess up to the incident, gave our innocent young drummer a 50 milligram weed gummy, which, you know, if you're familiar with those things, you know, most people take 5 milligram, 10 milligrams. If you're, you know, feel a little frisky, maybe 15, 20 at the most. But yeah, you're a serious fucking, you've got a serious tolerance if you can take a 50 and function, or at least not, you know, be completely comatose.
At that point, I was kind of getting ready for the show, and I saw Brian back there. And me and Armand were talking about the set. We had decided on a set that we hadn't really, I don't think we rehearsed it, to be honest, because we were in between festivals and everybody went their separate ways that week. You know, I flew to Phoenix to take my parents to Sedona on a vacation. Armand flew back to California, and Brian flew to Florida. So we had decided on this special set list, and really what happened was we were at the point where we had done a couple of the songs at soundcheck and it was fine, but I just wanted to go over the set with the whole band and just say, hey, let's remember these certain spots. And I had set lists printed out where I was going to write special things on it for Brian, you know, just going, hey, here's how the segues are going to go between these songs. We're not just going to play them and stop them. We always work out a way to keep the show flowing in a really cool, interesting way. So I bust out the set list and we all start talking, and I look at Brian and his eyes are just super red and like kind of glassy.
His eyes were so bloodshot. It was like one of those vampire movies, you know, where they make the vampire's eyes all red, you know. So,
and I just said, dude, are you fucking high right now? And he's all, no, of course I'm not. And Armand's like, yeah, man, you fucking high. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Are you serious?
So we kind of looked at each other. We're like, is he fucking stoned? We're like, hey, man, are you high? He's like, what? No, man, I don't smoke weed. I don't, you know, he doesn't, you know, he'll have a beer here and there or a few beers after the show, but never known him to smoke any weed or do anything else but beyond that. So thought it was kind of weird. So anyway, I just kind of went off and started doing my own thing. I don't know. I was kind of setting up. I don't know. Maybe I went outside, or there was another backstage kind of area that they took over, this little restaurant that was next door, where they had all the catering and everything. So I remember hanging out over there a little bit, warming up, hanging out with the Screamer guys, this and that.
Brian has never been high. I think he's maybe tried weed once or twice in his life. Never did anything for him, and so he never did it. And he doesn't party. He's not that type of person. And it was just, I was like, did you take a nap or something? He's like, yeah, I did, and I'm pretty tired. He's always tired. But so we were like, okay, all right. We just kind of passed it off.
Nasty Savage was the final band before us. And we kind of shared a dressing room with them. Everybody kind of shared a dressing room that day. And I kind of go back with Nasty Ronnie just a little bit. We're both in Florida, and I've seen him more than a few times. And me, Jarvis, and Armand end up in the dressing room right before they're about to go on. This is around 10 o'clock, 10 or so. So it's me, Armand, Jarvis, and Nasty Ronnie in the dressing room. The rest of the band for Nasty Savage is on stage getting ready to go. Nasty Ronnie's doing his warm-ups, and we're talking to him a little bit, and him and I are catching up a little, and I was like, well, this is now 2.5 hours or so after I took the gummy, so I'm like, oh, it didn't do anything, I'm fine.
Nasty Savage ends up going on stage. I'm watching a lot of the set from behind the curtain and seeing Nasty Ronnie break TVs over his head. And it was great. And the band was pretty good.
Thank you, guys. It's great to hear you here in Tulsa. Bringing some old school fucking Brandon metal. Searching for trouble, keep stealing your best friend, do my job, and do it so good. Parents don't want you, pay for you to leave the house. Take and grow, Toga, past few days. Who's the next victim? Fear of destruction, mislead lies. Who's the next victim?
Yeah, those guys are all super fucking cool in that band. So it was cool to be around them. But they get finished playing. Ronnie comes back. He's got blood all over him. I hand him a towel, and he's like pulling glass out of his forehead or whatever. And I was like, man, that was an awesome show. We just talked for a minute. Okay, we got to get up and do our thing.
And as we're talking to Ronnie, I'm standing there, part of the conversation, and then, bam! It's like as sudden as if somebody hit me with a baseball bat. All of a sudden, I just felt like everything just started moving. I just felt fucked up. And I'm like, oh no. This is not good. But I still feel lucid enough. I feel, conscious. I'm like, okay, don't panic. I'm okay. Just keep your cool. And I went outside. I was like, let me get some fresh air. I usually do stretches before I go on stage. I don't do a whole lot of warming up, but I do stretch. And I'm like, let me just get some fresh air. Let me walk outside and stretch. Just get my blood flowing, and as I'm out there, I'm feeling progressively worse and worse, and it becomes pretty clear to me that I'm not really okay.
I'm walking out of the dressing room. up a couple stairs onto the stage, and Brian says, "Jarvis, I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh, great, what's going on?" And I look at him now, and his freaking eyes are like blood red. His skin was so pale. Every time I tell this story now, I always say that he looked like a guy in a movie where they put makeup on somebody to make it look like they're dead. That's how he looked. And I was like, whoa. And he's like, "I think I ate something that had weed in it," is what he said. And I was like, what the fuck? What? We call him Howie. That's his nickname. We'll explain later maybe why we call him that. But we've been calling him that for years behind his back. And now it's hard not to call him that. But I was like, I did my typical, come on, Howie. What the hell, you know? And I was like, what are you talking about? How does that happen? And basically he tells me, I don't know. Somebody gave me like some gummy bears, and, you know, I didn't know that it was weed. And I was like, oh my fucking God. So I can't at this point try and rationalize what happened, find out who it was, why it happened, take Brian to school on don't take candy from strangers or whatever, or just the fact like, dude, this is rock and roll. Like, drugs and alcohol, like, it's everywhere, you know, like you gotta be smarter than that, you know? I don't know. I wasn't thinking any of that. I was just thinking, how the fuck are we going to play this show? And how am I going to, you know, he's like my little buddy, you know, it's like, I want him to be okay too. So, you know, I just told him, I just put my hands on his shoulders. I said, look, man, you are about to go through a hardcore psychological battle that with yourself that you need to win. Okay. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm feeling okay. He's like, I'm feeling a little weird, but I'm feeling okay. So I said, all right.
But I said, I can still play. I'm fine. I just feel really weird. And he's like, all right, well, it happens. I'll try to keep people away from you, and, you know, we'll get through this. So Nasty Savage finishes, and I walk on stage to go set the drums up. It's a festival, so it's a shared back line and all shared gear. I didn't really have anything of my own. I didn't have anything of my own, actually. I just brought sticks, nothing else. So I walk up to the drums. There is the one thing that I do set up where it's the sampler with our intro tape on it, and any intros or tapes that get played in between songs I trigger. So I have to set up the sampler pad for that, and I go to pick it up, and I go to plug it in. There's two cables for it. And I picked up the sampler, and I picked up the one cable, and I could not see where to put the cable in. Like, it just was not a clear picture to me. And I tried probably for about a minute to plug it in, and I couldn't. All I had to do was put the cable in the socket, and it just wasn't happening. I'm like, okay, let me sit behind the drums and see if I can do this. So I stand up, I go to sit down behind the drums, and I pick up a pair of drumsticks. I don't even think they were mine. I don't think they were, actually. And I look at the drums, and they look like they're 10 feet away from me or something. Maybe more than that. Maybe they just look like they were there on the other side of the room or something. And I pick up the drumsticks, and I just play a fill or whatever that comes to mind. Whatever the first thing that came to my mind was is what I played, and I couldn't hear it. And I'm looking at the audience, and then the one guy who's helping with changeover and the drums and everything says something to me. I don't remember what, but when he says something to me, I turn my head from facing the crowd to my left, and as I do, I don't see any of the movement of turning my head left. It's just 1 second looking at the crowd, and all of a sudden I'm looking at this guy talking to me. And I'm like, nope, I can't do it.
So he walked up to the drums, up on the drum riser, and I walked up to the downstage, to the front of the stage, just to plug something in really quick. The audience is there, butted up against the stage. Everybody, it's packed house. People are obviously excited to see us on stage, even though they know the show's not starting yet. I see him just put his hands on top of his crash cymbals and just kind of gaze out at the audience. So I go back there and I go, hey, like, what's up? Let's get this going. And he looks at me and he says, why are all these people here? And I said, oh, fuck. And he's like, I don't feel very good. I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's go outside. So I take him through the back door of the stage. It just goes into this like really dark alley, just exactly how you would imagine. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Outsiders or Rumblefish. Both of those movies are classics, Francis Ford Coppola films that were filmed in Tulsa. You can imagine an alley in Rumblefish, that's exactly what it looked like, dark and seedy. And he just lost it, man. He just kind of like fell to the ground and started puking. And he's just, he was done for, man. He was done.
So the next thing I remember is going outside and just collapsing to the floor and vomiting. It was not pretty. And I couldn't stand, I couldn't move, I was catatonic. And then we had some people, like Kit Ekman was there, and he tried to hype me up a bit. Like, you can do it, you can play. And I don't remember what order they came out, but like after 2 or 3 people like coming to hype me up, I was like starting to get more irritated than anything. It's like, anyone who knows me, like if there was any part of me that could have played that show that night, I would have been on that stage right then and there.
Jarvis was like, man, look at, I saw Howie and Brian, sorry. Yeah, he's like, man, he's fucked up. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, he's throwing up outside. I don't know. I think he ate something. I'm like, what do you mean he ate something? He ate a fucking weed gummy or something. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? Are you fucking serious? So we had to decide here and there. I remember going out back and trying to like give him a pep talk, and I tried to get him to stand up, walk around a little bit. And I got him up, and I was like, man, you just kind of got to try to get behind the drums. I don't know, maybe it'll just be it'll be a slower set, but we'll do it, I thought he could do it. I didn't think he was as bad as he was, but he is pretty bad, man.
But I just absolutely could not move. It was just not happening. And I was just starting to hallucinate like crazy. I don't even know how to describe what I was seeing. It was just colors, and it was pretty horrible, to be honest with you. Every time I opened my eyes, it was like just too much. That's the only way I can describe it. It was like sensory overload to just look at the real world. And then if I closed my eyes, and I just saw like shapes and images of nothing in particular, just weird colors and patterns.
And I was just trying to give him some air. I grabbed him some water. He couldn't hold anything down. He kept throwing up. He couldn't even stand. He was having a huge psychological battle, but he ate this stuff. So it was intensely physical at the same time. A nightmare situation I would never even want to be in. I've been high thousands of times, and I don't get high anymore, pretty much because of that. I mean, I've probably never been that bad, though, especially your first time. I mean, can you imagine? God, so we're giving him some time. I tell Armand what's going on. He's like, what the hell? His first reaction is like, who gave it to you? He's like on that warpath. I mean, that's not going to fix anything, but of course, it's aggravating right? You know, I get that. You know, we kept talking to him and we kept trying to make it happen. People were coming up and kind of making jokes and like, you know, we were kind of shoving him off or like, you know, trying to talk him out of it or talk him through it, I should say. And, you know, that stuff never helps. So I just kept telling people, just get away, let me handle this. And he's just like almost crying and just saying, I'm sorry, Jarvis, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it. There's no way I can play. I can't do it. So I had a mixture of emotions, you know. Part of me was angry. Part of me was panicking. I would say the biggest emotion was anxiety. But it was probably nothing compared to the anxiety that he was going through, I'm sure.
We just had to make a decision at that point. You know, he tried to get behind the drums, but it was like, I think he could barely even hold the drumsticks. That's how bad he was. So meanwhile, the Cirith Ungol guys had come over, Tim and Rob, because they were going to watch our set. And we're like, hey guys, you know, we had a quick little chat and said, all right, well, here's the only thing we can do. We don't know anybody that can jump up on drums and play our stuff, our set. And we didn't really want to do that anyway. So we told the Cirith Ungol guys, like, hey, go get your gear, whatever you need. We got to do a set. We'll just play songs that we're not playing tomorrow night because we're headlining the next night at Cain's Ballroom.
Well, from my point of view, me and Tim went down, left the hotel and went down to see Night Demon play because we wanted to check them out and check out the venue. And on the way there, we saw someone lying kind of outside the club, looked like in a lot of distress. So anyway, we went in the club and we were talking to everyone, and it turns out that a member of one of the other bands asked Brian if he wanted a gummy, and I guess he took one and ate it, and he'd never smoked pot or been high before, and he was really out of it. And I kept going. I go, come on, man. I go, you can play. I go, I've done this before. You know, just get up there and start moving. He goes, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. So I don't know. I talked to Tim. I leaned over to Tim. I said, well, shit, maybe we should get up and play something so it's not for the whole thing to go downhill.
Me and Rob were like at the hotel room. We knew 19 was coming on in like maybe like an hour. So we decided, you know, we're going to go up and go grab a beer before the show. So we walk up back to the alleyway in the back of the venue. And we see a guy like cross-legged, like sitting like in the alleyway, like all hunched over, shit like that. And we walking by, and I'm going like, and I tell Rob, I go, man, that looks like Brian. So I didn't think nothing of it. So we walk inside the venue. Like 2 minutes later, we find out, oh, fuck, that is Brian. He's out. He's like just somebody handed him a gummy, some like super extra strength gummy, and Brian isn't the guy that gets high. He's never been high, and so it just hit him like a ton of bricks, and he's out there just throwing up and just like he couldn't even function as a human being at that point.
I remember grabbing Jacob from Blind Oath and asking him, hey man, can you guys take Brian back to the hotel and just put him to bed because, you know, he can't be out here. And so we watched him and I forget who else it was, literally like carry him away like a wounded soldier, man. It was pretty funny, but also sad for the guy. You know, there's a little video clip of that.
We see Brian getting hauled back to the hotel room. Like guys are like having him by two arms like that, and he's like stiff like a corpse. And they're dragging him, and his legs are totally stiff. They're just dragging. You can see the tracks behind him, just like two like tire tracks behind Brian because his legs won't work. And they drag him back to the hotel room, and you know.
Jarvis asked if there was anybody safe or reliable that could take my hotel key and take me back to my room. And at this point, I'm just a total mess, like throwing up, just collapsed on the floor in an alleyway. Classic. Eventually, a couple guys. It was Jacob from Blind Oath and the owner of Whittier Bar down there. I don't actually think I ever learned his name, which I'm sorry, but I am very thankful to those two. They grabbed me and pulled me up and basically dragged me back to my hotel room. And there's a video of it, and it's pretty, I'll admit it's pretty funny. when they picked me up, I had an arm around each of their necks, and they were pulling me, and my feet were just dragging on the ground. And I remember trying to move my feet to walk, and it just wasn't happening. Like, I was trying so hard to move my legs, but I was absolutely paralyzed. And like I said, it was only a 2-minute walk from that backstage door to the hotel. And half of it was like this alleyway. And when we get to the end of the alleyway, I remember I was like, I'm going to puke again. So I told them, like, let me down. And they put me down. I fell to the floor again and started throwing up again. And then I was like, they're like, you're so close, man. You can do this. I was like, I know. So they picked me up again. And this time, I'm able to move my feet at least. So I'm not just complete dead weight. So that made it a little easier on them.
So at this point, I talked to Tim and Rob and said, look, we got to do this. I talked to Armand. He was down. And they're like, okay, well, I got to go back to the hotel and I got to get my drumsticks and all this. So more and more time went by. I eventually went onto the stage. I waited till those guys got back. I went onto the stage. At this point, I would say that we were supposed to be, it must have been at least 35 minutes since Nasty Savage had stopped, maybe longer. And you could hear the crowd yelling Night Demon, getting pumped this whole time, and then slowly getting, I don't know, upset or just curious. What is happening? What is taking so long? And it was late. It was late at night. I think we're supposed to go on at like 11 or something like that. So, I went out and broke the news to the crowd. And I was being very honest in what I said because, I mean, I don't know. I see a lot of bands. I read a lot of interviews, and I always know when somebody's kind of beating around the bush or bullshitting their fans. I always know it. And then you start trying to read between the lines. Then you start coming up with your own story that's probably not even true, but somehow you just believe it because you know you're being deceived. And not that it's anybody's business, but I don't know. We have such a closeness with our fans. And I was looking around at the audience, and there's so many faces that I know personally. And I just thought, as embarrassing as this may be for Brian, it did happen. He's responsible for what he ingests, although it wasn't intended, and it's like, I don't want to embarrass him or throw him under the bus, but it's more than a Brian thing. It's a Night Demon thing now, It prevented us from going out and headlining this festival. That's a big deal. That's not the way it needs to be. It should not be that way. So I just decided to go up and tell the truth to the audience.
All right, let's kill the music, please. So we've spent a lot of time building a great fan base and friendship here in Tulsa. So we appreciate all you guys coming all this way tonight. One thing that our friends and fans know about Night Demon is we're always transparent and very straight up with y'all, okay? So our nice, lovely drummer, Mr. Brutal Brian Wilson, he loves sugar and he doesn't get high. He's never gotten high in his life. And tonight, that all changed. So on accident, what he thought somebody was giving him a gummy bear was an actual something not good. So he's in a real bad place right now. So I don't know, maybe tomorrow if there's time we could slip in some Night Demon shit. I feel really bad about this, but the show ran a little late tonight anyway. There is a 12:30 curfew, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a Cirith Ungol set right now of songs that we were not going to play tomorrow, okay? So just bear with us 1 minute, and we'll make something happen. Thank you, guys.
I think by doing that, it was a respectable thing to do. And I think anybody who's ever ingested any THC would, they completely understand. I mean, they probably couldn't imagine doing anything on it, let alone playing an hour-long blistering Night Demon set, right? So, I've just felt that was the right thing to do, is just to be honest with these people. And I actually think it gained a lot of sympathy for the situation and for him, to be honest. It was unintended, and, the last thing we wanted to do was cancel the show. So that's what I did. And, I don't really remember what I said or how I did, but I do remember hearing like a sigh from the audience, or just like a gasp when I told them what was happening. Because again, everybody can relate to this.
So anyway, we threw it all together, told people what was up. They seemed to be cool with it. So yeah, we just decided to play songs that we weren't playing the next night. And I think we did about 5 or 6 songs. Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing we can do, Night Demon has never missed a show before this on our own accord, I've been sick. Jarvis has been sick, but we've always just powered through and done the set. So this is a first.
We didn't really put together an Ungol set. We had no idea. We just went up there and we were calling them out as we thought of them. What are we not playing tomorrow? What do we remember? And I don't even remember what we played, to be honest. I really don't.
We happen to be on an off night, Cirith Ungol. We're here to bring you some gummies and some blood and iron!
I thought it went over pretty good for what it was. I think a lot of people were bummed that we weren't playing because, like I said before, we are sort of fan favorites over there in good old Tulsa. It's like another home for us. A lot of great people, and they really are into our band. So it was a bummer to not be able to play the set that we had, because we were really, really looking forward to it and really jazzed up for that whole fest. But hey, we had to do what we had to do, and I think we still came out triumphant.
The next thing that I can recall was Jarvis talking to me from the other bed in the room. I guess he came in and to check on me, do a wellness check, and he's like, everything's okay. This happened amongst friends. This, and Cirith Ungol played a surprise set of songs that they weren't going to play the next night. And he just, tells me it's all good. No one's mad. And I'm just mortified. I'm like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe any of it. And like I'm just like not even able to respond to him yet either. Like I'm just like, oh, groaning at him probably because it's just still fucked up. I think I woke up the next morning around 7 a.m. and I remember every time my heart beat, it felt like my body was jumping. It was like I could feel my blood pumping through my veins. It was very uncomfortable. I guess it's the body high that people talk about. I was not a fan. Not for me. But I was just laying there. I'm like, fuck. This is fucked up, man. I just like wanted this sensation to go away and it just wouldn't. I'm laying there probably for like an hour or two and I think I fall asleep again and then I wake up again and eventually I just feel kind of spacey, I guess. I was still high, definitely, but not so much that I couldn't function. Or it was just at a level I could push through it. So it was time to set up for Cirith Ungol, and I drum tech for them. So I showed up and helped Rob set up his drums and everything. And I did feel pretty out of it though. Like people were talking to me, and it was kind of going in one ear out the other. But I pushed through, and I was able to work through it. And then as soon as they were sound checked, I went back to my room and passed out. And I was going to try and get back to the festival. Actually debated if I was going to go to the festival at all that day because I was so embarrassed. I was just going to show up only for Cirith Ungol's set because I had to be there for it. But the rest of it, I was like, I'm just going to stay hidden. I don't want to face anyone. So I eventually woke up around like 4 o'clock in the afternoon again, and I was like, I did want to see some of the bands that day, especially Jag Panzer, but I was like, I'm still not good. I'm still not feeling great, so I slept another couple hours, and I woke up, and I was like, I'm starting to feel kind of normal again. And so I go to the festival, and thankfully, everybody was very nice about what happened. Nobody really gave me any shit for it. So I was thankful for that. And I got to see Jag Panzer. But I was still really bummed that I didn't play the night before. It was really eating at me.
It came pretty close to the show time. Flotsam was on before Cirith, and believe it or not, the timeline, the set times were, the fest was ahead of schedule, which is very rare for any festivals. I mean, mostly they mostly run on time, but as far as being ahead of schedule, and I think it was ahead of schedule by like 15 to 20 minutes. There was a few pretty big changeover times for the last few bands, but there really wasn't a lot that needed to be changed over since everybody was using the same drum kit and the same guitar cabs. Nobody brought, any extra stuff, so it really didn't take these bands very long to get up there and set up. So, seeing that, Brian Horton, was kind of like, hey, so there's a little extra time if y'all want to get up there and do your thing, maybe play a few songs. I think people will be really into it. And, it had kind of been a little bit of a rumor thing. People were asking me throughout the day, like, hey, what's up, man? You guys gonna get up there and do something today? You got to redeem yourselves. And, I felt like we needed to do that. We needed to, like, redeem ourselves for sure. But again, I didn't want to, impose on, anybody else's set. But since there ended up being that extra time, we finally decided last minute, all right, we're going to do it. We basically had the same setup. So Brian just played on Rob's kit the way he had it set up, which is actually pretty similar to the way he sets up. So we didn't tell anybody we were going to do this, which was kind of cool. We just set everything up. We killed the lights and we hit the intro for Outsider. And people kind of figured out what was happening, and we got a really great reaction, and it felt like we came out fucking kings on top. We redeemed ourselves. Brian redeemed himself. He is back, back from the grave, the weed grave, and yeah, triumphant.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. The crowd absolutely erupted. Me and Armand were going off on stage, and Brian was playing lights out. He was playing really good. And I'm surprised. He seemed fine that day because anything like that, apparently these gummies were 50 milligrams. I've known people to take 10 milligram gummies that are bigger than Brian in size and have been annihilated. So this was an overdose, I would say. And he played great, and he did great that day. And, in the words of Dumb and Dumber, totally redeemed himself. Yeah, it was awesome. And it was like, again, it was one of these meant to be situations. It built up a lot of tension for the fans over the course of 24 hours. And they had seen us the next day, and everybody was really apologetic and sympathetic to our situation. And we get up there and we didn't tell anybody, but Night Demon's taking the stage, and people fucking went off, and we went off too. And it ended up being so much more of a special moment than us just headlining the Friday night. It was really fucking awesome. And it was such a cool thing to experience.
We fucking played, a badass hour and 15-minute Cirith Ungol set.
Fire is growing
All in all, man, goddamn, talk about one for the storybooks. We'll never forget 2 Minutes to Tulsa 2024.
But all in all, I want to thank everyone who looked after me that night and who cared about my well-being. It's very much appreciated, and that everyone was understanding and cool about it. It really means a lot to me. You know, like I've said probably more than a few times in this episode, what I do is very important to me. And, you know, I only want to represent myself well and play well for anyone who wants to come see show that I'm playing. And it really hurt me that I wasn't able to that night. But we've already played a lot of gigs since then, and they've gone well. And I'm looking forward to many more good shows in the future, and you have my word that this will not happen again.
So the show that almost wasn't, 50 milligrams, that's crazy. It's cool how Night Demon rallied and the fans weren't left in the lurch, getting an extra Cirith Ungol set, as well as a surprise Night Demon set. If you'd like to hear the entire Cirith Ungol makeup set from the first night, and the Night Demon surprise set from the second night, and the full Cirith Ungol show from the following night, check out the subscriber section on nightdemon.net. I'm also putting Night Demon's full set from 2 Minutes to Tulsa 2023, so last year's Night Demon set. There's also a video of poor Brian getting carried out of an alleyway, basically a corpse at that point. Video of that in the subscriber section. More info on how to become a Night Demon subscriber on nightdemon.net. Until next time, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.